even with the pornography use, that my wife and I have been getting separate, separating for a long time. It was really wild, and thing that I discovered is that every time you indulge in pornography, it was like a brick being put in my relationship. You know, um, there's a lot of spiritual connection, and she could feel me getting distant. She could feel, you know, one thing is one lie turns into another. And she just stayed on the phone and questioned me like, and it was, I mean, I have to tell you, I was trying to go to sleep. I was like, we'll talk about it later. And she's like, no, no, no. What is going, and I'll never forget the word she said is, what is it I don't know about you, Terry Crews?
Mm.
Woo. And man, and it just triggered a flood, just not even a flood. It was more like, I'm tired. I'm tired of putting up this front and tired of holding up this image, and it all weighed down. And here it is. I had a chance. Like it was a chance. It was an opportunity. It was like hitting the Death Star, like Indiana Jones, and you can come underneath the wall that's closing down, and you just scoot underneath it. And I just said, I told her, I like, and what had happened is I had actually been unfaithful to her at a massage parlor 10 years earlier. But, that was the one thing that I vowed I would never tell. Like I vowed, like if there's no way I'm ever gonna, and it was because of the pornography use, and it totally the acting out, and it culminated with that. And I was like, I thought I'd never do that. I thought, okay, yeah, pornography and the whole thing, that's all got, but I thought I'm never going to touch another woman. I'm never going to have another woman touch me and all that. And there it was. I, and this was 10 years earlier. And I said, oh my God, like I went across, I crossed the line, but I said, I'll never tell. So for 10 years, I had been, running around these questions about, she would say, so, what goes on, what's going on with you and what's happening? And I would get into an argument in order to get out of the conversation. I knew very quickly how to just, you know, kind of blame her and give her the runaround in order to just, so she just stopped talking about it, because I knew this was a situation I didn't want it to come up, because I'd have to start another lie, you know. You ever cheated on me? No, no, no. Yeah. Oh, listen, why are you even asking me that? These ways to get around actually telling the truth, as opposed to, you know, just, but that opportunity I had, I just said, bam. When I was in Vancouver, I went to a massage parlor and I was unfaithful. And I was like, but this is the thing. It was quickly followed by, it was 10 years ago, you know. But to her, it was the second I said it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know? And I'll never forget the gasp I heard of the line, the all of a sudden my life changed, because she said, I can't deal with this. Like, I don't know you.
Mhm.
I'm how could you even do something like this? And then I went into, because she started to ask, like, what else? What else? And I said, well, I'll never forget, it just poured out. I was like, I've been addicted to pornography for years. I mean, like, you know, bookstores, movie places, and then the internet. And I said, wow. And this is over years. We were married in 1989, when you kind of had to find it out. You had to kind of get I had the video places, kind of peep shows, this kind of stuff. And then, when the internet came, it was just like, oh my God, like I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I knew I was in trouble, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was the beginning of the new Terry Crews. I like to say that was my born day in a lot of ways. We call it D-Day.